Again to the Greg Belfrage Show. Forgive me. Let me get set up here. Handling my phone while I'm trying to get it in a holder here. There we go. Hey, welcome. Hope you're doing well. We'll open up the marketplace of ideas here shortly, giving you a little broader shot this morning so you can see a bit more of the studio. I want to hold on. I got to tilt this down just a bit if I can. There we go. Sorry for the mechanics, but it just using my phone just works out really easy. I can have it set up, forget it, and get going. So I'm going to start getting set up and prepare myself, giving you a little broader view of the studio this morning. And I just want to thank you a lot for being here. Again, if this is your first time watching the Greg Belfrage Show, the rundown, the big national stories that are going on, Donald Trump, the Trump case, the jury came back looking for more instructions. They had questions for the judge. So we'll give you details on that. There's also an update on Scotty Scheffler and what's going on with that. The charges have been dropped. So I'll share that story and more. Also, really, Senator John Fetterman made some comments here the other day that are getting a lot of attention, and we'll point those out. So those are among the stories we'll be following for you this morning. And I'm going to turn my attention to the board here, kind of get rolling. Let me adjust this phone a little bit as I move away there. Give you a little broader perspective of the studio. I've also got a couple of screens right here in front of me. My phone is right here. And we'll get rolling.
Are you a victim of the timeshare trap and think there's no way out? I'm Chuck McDowell, founder of Wesley Financial Group, the original timeshare cancellation expert. And I'm here to tell you that there is a way out. All you need to do
Turning on our 8-second delay.
I'll send you a timeshare exit information kit absolutely free, explaining how the timeshare industry works and your options for
the 8-second delay is not for me, although every now and again, callers, I've got to use it. I've used it a couple of times on myself, I'll admit to you. All right, we're into our local news, minutes away, and we'll get rolling. Thanks again for being here.
Made his first court appearance yesterday. Faced 3 first-degree murder charges. Oster was accused of walking into a neighboring house and shooting 3 men late Monday night. Oster's wife claims that days earlier she had been drinking with one of the victims, Paul Frankus, who forcibly kissed her and exposed himself to her. Jay Oster was being held on a $1 million cash-only bond. State legislators are making the B-21 Raider expansion at Ellsworth Air Force Base a matter of serious study this summer. State Senate Majority Leader Casey Crabtree says the expansion at Ellsworth will send ripples across the state.
Right now, Ellsworth is the number 2 employer in South Dakota, behind the state of South Dakota. So, I mean, you start thinking about the economic impact, we're talking about $489 million to our state.
4,000 new residents are expected in the Ellsworth area next year. By the year 2030, that will expand to more than 12,000 new residents. The Sioux Falls Canaries are on a 4-game winning streak. Brian Zimmerman pitched 7 scoreless innings as they beat the Gary South Shore Railcats 5-0 in Indiana last night. Canaries host a 6-game homestand tomorrow night against the Sioux City Explorers. And Mount Rushmore is announcing new hours and activities for the summertime. Information centers are now open from 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. Postal demonstrations and daily ranger talks are among the activities offered. You can find all the details at the National Park Service website.
Let's try moving this just a little bit.
Never stops. Kello, News Talk 1320 107.9. Whether by Window World, we're one
There.
stop shop for windows.
That gives you a better look.
Areas of showers and thunderstorms today around the Sioux Falls area. Our high temperature at 72 and a south wind at 50.
I call this part of the show the Big Open.
Storms this evening and then turning partly cloudy overnight, low at 54. Scattered wind at 15 tomorrow with a high temperature at 74. That's the latest on your weather from the Storm Center at Kettleland TV. I'm meteorologist Brian Carstens.
The only thing that is constant is change. So check back all day long. Kello, News Talk 1320, 107.9, and Kello.com. The Doctor of Discernment is on the air.
Tell you what, I don't know about you.
I've got a mouse right down here that I'm using to control play cuts or start automation, so on.
Common sense, no prescription required.
I love the show.
I don't hate going to work anymore.
Americans love a winner and will not tolerate a loser. Americans play to win all the time.
I don't believe in the
Good morning, my friends. The marketplace of ideas is open. It's great to be with you this morning. Welcome to the Greg Belfrage Show. Well, the big story this morning is Donald Trump, and you had the first day of jury deliberations, but a lot of questions for the judge. They came back with several times with, I think, they have 4 different questions for the judge yesterday. And they want to rehear Michael Cohen's testimony among things that they're asking about. So they also requested to rehear the jury instructions. They also want to rehear testimony from David Pecker. He's the former publisher of the National Enquirer. And also then they want to hear Michael Cohen's testimony regarding a meeting in Trump Tower. So the judge told them it would take some time to gather the required testimony. It would take about a half an hour to reread it to the jury. So that will likely take place then today, and deliberations will resume this morning. So a number of questions from the jury in the first day of the Donald Trump trial. So Trump is charged with 34 counts of falsifying business records, and Trump has pled not guilty to all of these counts. So court will get underway again this morning at about 9:30, that's Eastern time, when court resumes. And the jurors, Judge Merchan told the jury also yesterday that the court day ends at 4:30. They can feel free to deliberate until 6 p.m. So we'll see what happens. Also, the president talking to black voters in Philadelphia on Wednesday. The president is having trouble with black voters. According to Politico, Politico's got a story saying Biden's black voter troubles are setting off alarm bells. So this one's from Fox News. The president talking to black voters in Philadelphia yesterday. And he claimed that Donald Trump wanted to tear gas them when they were peacefully protesting the murder of George Floyd, is what Joe Biden is saying. So the president also focused on items he says better the lives of black voters, including the elimination of lead pipes for safer drinking water. Talked about the removal of pollution near fence-line communities, affordable high-speed internet, and the Affordable Health Care Act. He said a promise made and a promise kept, the president said. And then he started in on Trump. And he talked about the January 6th rioters. Donald Trump, of course, is called the Patriots. And he said, let me ask you, what do you think Trump would have done on January 6th if black Americans had stormed the Capitol? I don't think he'd be talking about pardons. This is the same guy who wanted to tear gas you as you peacefully protested George Floyd's murder, he says. So the president saying that yesterday. Again, this piece of Politico is saying that folks, apparently Democrats, Politico says they're not worried. They're saying the White House has got policy achievements, that they're doing things. It's that black voters aren't hearing about them. This is what they're saying. And they say they fear that the Biden campaign has not fully grasped the severity of the information gap, particularly in battleground states. So these are Politico talked to members of the Congressional Black Caucus, and Representative Stephen Horsford said he's from Nevada. And he said, I'm in a battleground state. I know what has and hasn't been done. I felt a level of disconnection earlier on the message, on the messengers, and on mobilization, he said. Representative Jasmine Crockett, Democrat from Texas, said voters are increasingly turning to more non-traditional sources of information, and that has contributed to the problem, she says. The way we communicate has changed in such a way that if you don't invest earlier, it's going to be a problem. But she says, I'm not saying that it's the last minute, but we are in crunch time. And then it goes on to say what Democrats are saying privately regarding the president and his problems. Scotty Scheffler. It's opening up, all of those charges against Scotty Scheffler, golfer Scotty Scheffler, have been dropped. And this comes after he was arrested over a traffic dispute that occurred during the PGA Championship. And so I don't know if you heard any of the audio of the Jefferson County Attorney Mike O'Connell. He filed a motion to dismiss the charges yesterday. And he said this whole thing's a big misunderstanding. And he credited Scotty Scheffler with being an absolute gentleman. He went out of his way, I think, to say that Scotty Scheffler was a gentleman in the way that he reacted, even when he was arrested, handcuffed, he's sitting in the car. He just conducted himself as a gentleman the entire time, they said. So now Scheffler has posted a statement on Instagram, and he said, as I stated previously, this was an unfortunate misunderstanding. I hold no ill will toward Officer Gillis. I wish to put this incident behind me and move on. And I hope he will do the same. Police officers have a difficult job, and I hold them in high regard. This was a severe miscommunication in a chaotic situation. And what had happened was police were on the scene. So Scheffler was following the instructions that he had been given to go into the tournament. He was doing exactly what he had been told in order to show up and golf that day. And little did he know there was an accident that had taken place, and that's why police were in the middle of an unfortunate situation dealing with an accident, and there was just a lot of confusion. But it's great to see the charges being dropped. And Scheffler, with his response, I mean, it's just, I think, is incredible. And it just kind of proves what people are saying about Scotty Scheffler. He said, I appreciate the support during the past 2 weeks, and I want to again encourage everyone to remember the real tragedy of May 17th, he said. So I always enjoy pointing out when people, I mean, that's a big story, and I wanted to follow up on that. We talked about it a little bit last week. But the way that he has responded is unlike the way I think a lot of others would have responded. What we saw, those remarks coming from Scotty Scheffler. Also, Donald Trump and Elon Musk have spoken on the phone a couple of times over the past, and apparently they do it several times a month. And they're talking about a potential advisory role for Musk if Trump wins the election. And so Musk has become one of the president's most, biggest critics. And so there were conversations between the two of them, and this has been trending here the last couple of days, that Trump and Elon Musk, again, this was a story that originated with the Wall Street Journal, that the two of them are having regular ongoing conversations, and that potentially Elon Musk, one of the things they're talking about is, should Trump win the election, that Elon Musk could have a role in the Trump administration. Other big stories, I think this is really unfortunate. You see the reaction to some as we've talked a lot about the treatment of Jewish people in our country, especially, since, what we saw happen at some of the prominent colleges and universities throughout the country. Well, now there's a man who tried to mow down Orthodox students and a rabbi outside a Brooklyn Jewish school yesterday. And the guy clearly disturbed, screaming, "I'm going to kill all the Jews," he said. And there's footage of this. And it shows this guy revving his engine then and coming right up on the curb, coming toward several Jewish people. These are Orthodox Jews. And so now you've got the New York Police Department and their hate crimes task force investigating this case. Detectives were interviewing the driver last night. So this guy faces a lot of charges: attempted murder, attempted assault, hate crimes charges. Police say they don't believe the attack is terror related. And as of last night, there wasn't any evidence then that he's tied to radical groups online. So whether he was just what influenced him and what may have driven him to try to do this, we don't know. Likely we'll be learning more. So he, after, veering towards students, he went around the block and back toward the school. This, at that time, targeted two more students that were standing outside and a rabbi. And at that point, that's when police say he screamed, "I'm going to kill all the Jews." So they ran into the building, and it's just crazy. Fortunately, no one was hurt, police say. But there were 5 victims that he had attempted to run down. He at one point barreled toward a group of 30 to 40 students who were standing outside. Incredible. Also, did you hear about Senator John Fetterman? He was speaking at this was a commencement address at a private Orthodox Jewish university. And Senator John Fetterman was speaking to them. And he was talking about the rise of anti-Semitism. And he expressed his disapproval with Harvard. And he said, "I have been profoundly disappointed in Harvard's inability to stand up for the Jewish community after October 7th. He said, "Personally, I do not fundamentally believe that it is right for me to wear this today." So he had his Harvard hood on. And he's wearing the Harvard hood. And after those comments, he removes the hood. He says, "I don't believe it's right for me to be wearing this." He takes it off. And he said, "The Jewish community everywhere deserves our support, and I promise you, you will always have mine." So there was dancing among students taking place. He has been widely applauded. I think this is one of those, Senator John Fetterman, there are a lot of things that we would disagree about, no question about that. But when he is one of the very few who has been speaking publicly, consistently about what happened, speaking up for Israel, speaking up for the Jewish people. It's been pretty profound. And so that was the scene yesterday at Yeshiva University. Fetterman saying he's profoundly disappointed in Harvard University's inability to deal with that issue. Also, there have been a lot of storms in Texas, and that's a big story, even far beyond Texas, into throughout the country. That Texas dealing with flooding, and throughout the southern plains yesterday, residents trying to clean up from the storms that Texas had just been pummeled by storms. Over a period of weeks, really. So the National Weather Service issued an advisory yesterday talking about the severe weather, and then issuing severe thunderstorm warnings in big parts of the country, North Dakota, Kansas, Nebraska, touching a lot of the country. So as far as what's going on in Texas, you've got nearly 400,000 people who were still without power last night, and another 70,000 power customers remaining in the dark in other states, Kentucky, Arkansas, Virginia, and Missouri. So trying to get the power restored, get power back to those folks, has been a priority in the wake of those storms. And those storms have just been unrelenting over the course of the last couple of weeks. Also, we'll talk about this in more detail coming up this morning after 7. This is an incredible story about a Kentucky high school graduate, or not graduate yet. He was giving the commencement speech, and he had asked about praising Jesus Christ during his commencement speech. And he was told he could, but then he included some remarks that went beyond just mentioning Christ. But this is what he said. He said, "Class, before another word leaves my mouth, I must give the honor, the praise, and the glory to my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ," he said. Now, this is down in Kentucky. He said, "Who in his very words tells us he is the light, he is the way, the truth, and life. Class, anyone in the audience today, I'm here to tell you that if you don't have any of those things in your life and can't seem to find the answer, then my Lord and Savior is your answer." So when he was done, they did not give him his diploma. And he posted his name is Micah Price. He posted a video to TikTok over the weekend. And he said, after the speech was over, one of the principals came in, tapped me on the on the shoulder, very politely and professionally told me that I was going to have to go in front of the board and explain what I did because I went off script, he said. So they had allowed Price to thank his Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, but the remaining remarks, and so now the superintendent saying speakers were told that if they went off their submitted speech, that there might be repercussions. And that's what he did. So you and I will talk about that coming up this morning. What are your thoughts on that? about him should he receive his diploma despite going off script. So we'll talk about that. We'll get your reaction coming up a little bit later this morning. 625, mostly cloudy and 63. Great to have you along. You're listening to the Greg Belfrage Show here on Kello. Hey, let's open up our phone lines and give you a chance to win 2 evening passes to Wild Water West Water Park. They are now open. Be caller number 7 right now at 605-336-1320. Caller number 7 right now at 605-336-1320. And you win 2 evening passes to Wild Water West Water Park. So call us right now. This hour of the Greg Belfrage Show brought to you by the Window Shop of Mitchell, offering custom windows starting at $99 a month.
Robbins, weekdays at 2. Kello, News Talk 1320.
Okay, so that's the first segment. I'll do a quick cut in coming up. We got commercials that are on the air right now. Also, phones are ringing for people who are calling for those Wild Water West passes. So we'll get into a news and information update coming up here in just a few moments. I'm going to be gathering some more stories for the next segment that I'll be doing. So that'll be coming up here shortly. Thanks so much for joining us. If you're following us via YouTube, thank you. My plans are to post this each day also then at kello.com. So if you're not up at this hour, I've got a number of listeners who listen all the way through 9 o'clock. The show actually is on live 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. I'm only streaming the first hour of the program. So, but you can catch the remaining portions. You can download the Kello app to your phone, regardless of where you're at, and listen to us that way. You can also stream us live at kello.com.
The headlines remind us daily the world is a dangerous place. The elites in charge say everything's fine.
Okay.
Stop noticing, but you know better. And your gut knows that time is short to prepare for a world that is 4 missed meals away from chaos. My Patriot Supply has helped over 3 million families become more self-reliant. And is the company Americans.
Since I'm using my phone to record, I'm using a small laptop here. Not even a laptop, it's a tablet. Using a tablet to get your emails. You can email me anytime, greg.belfridge@kelo.com. And then I get headlines from our news department. They're in a separate room. Fairly big facility that we've got.
Power generators, water filtration units, biomass stoves, heirloom seeds, and critical survival gear. Shop mypatriotsupply.com today. mypatriotsupply.com.
Here's your forecast update for the Sioux Falls area. 72 today, scattered showers and thunderstorms on the increase. Even the possibility of a little severe weather this afternoon. We'll keep you posted on that. South wind at 15 to 30. Low tonight, 54. Scattered showers and thunderstorms this evening. A little more scattered.
And in Sioux Falls at 629, it's mostly cloudy, 63 currently at Kello. Congratulations to Susan Walsh of Adrian, Minnesota. Susan Walsh won those passes to Wild Water West Water Park. Hey, Susan, thanks a million for listening. Really, really appreciate it. We'll give you another chance to win Wild Water West passes coming up tomorrow during the show. Now, still to come, Joe Bowman is in the Kello.com News Center. And among stories that Joe is following this morning, Jay Ostrom made his first court appearance yesterday. He's facing 3 first-degree murder charges. Joe will have more details regarding that. Also, state legislators are making the Ellsworth Air Force Base B-21 Raider expansion. So talk about the effects that's having on the state. Joe will have details on those stories and more coming up for you here in just a few moments. Fox News just ahead. Thanks so much for letting me start your day. 6:30, and you're listening to the Greg Belfrage Show on Kello.
Fox News. Ms. Foster. Jurors at former President Trump's criminal hush money trial in New York are back in court 9:30 Eastern time this morning. They've deliberated for 4.5 hours so far.
While deliberating, the jury submitted 2 notes to Judge Mershon. They asked for 5 things, including David Pecker and Michael Cohen's testimonies about a meeting they had with Donald Trump back in 2015. During that meeting, prosecutors alleged they discussed a conspiracy to get Trump elected by killing negative stories about him. Jurors also asked the judge to read the jury instructions back to them again.
Fox's Brooks Singman, 14 pro-democracy activists are convicted in Hong Kong.
They were charged with conspiracy to commit subversion over an unofficial primary election. The national security law was imposed by Beijing and has been accused of drastically cutting back on Hong Kong's freedoms.
Fox's Jonathan Savage, 31 others already pleading
I
guilty.
have stacks of stuff all over the studio.
Listening to Fox News.
We cover a lot of news.
News brought to you by
we try
Sioux
to
Falls Implant
at least
and
touch on things.
They fix your
and
teeth while you sleep.
You want more information? I've always encouraged you go out there and find it. When you hear me talking about something and you want more information, go out there and find more. Be well informed. I think it's part of being a responsible citizen is to be well informed with events. So I'm going through trending stories. I want to sort these out in a way that makes sense.
Forcibly kissed her and exposed himself to her. Jay Ostrom is being held on a $1 million cash-only bond. State legislators are making the B-21 Raider expansion at Ellsworth Air Force Base
TikTok's in the news again.
Study this summer. State Senate Majority Leader Casey Crabtree says the expansion at Ellsworth will send ripples across the state.
Right now, Ellsworth is the number 2 employer in South Dakota, behind the state of South Dakota. So, I mean, you start thinking about the economic impact. We're talking about $489 million to our state.
4,000 new residents are expected in the Ellsworth area next year. By the year 2030, that will expand to more than 12,000.
Move that out of my way.
It's now easier to enjoy South Dakota's great outdoors. Starting this Saturday, Class 2 electric bikes will be allowed on the 30-plus miles of the Sioux Falls Greenway Trail System. This means the rider doesn't have to pedal, but must stay within the 15-mile-per-hour speed limit. Mount Rushmore is announcing new hours and activities for the summertime. Information centers are now open from 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. Local demonstrations and daily ranger talks are among the activities offered. You can find all the details at the National Park Service website. And the Sioux Falls Canaries are on a 4-game winning streak.
I just shake my head at some of these trending stories. Michael Avenatti's back in the news. It's like,
Indiana last night. Canaries
really?
tomorrow night against the Sioux City Explorers. From the Kello.com News Center, I'm Joe Bowman.
The news never stops. Kello, News Talk 1320, 107.9.
Areas of showers and thunderstorms today around the Sioux Falls area. Our high temperature at 72 and a south wind at 15 to 30. More showers and thunderstorms this evening and then turning partly cloudy overnight, low at 54. More scattered rain chances tomorrow with a high temperature at 74. That's the latest on your weather from the Storm Center at Kettleland TV. I'm meteorologist Brian Parsons.
Focusing on news you can use. News that affects you. Kello, News Talk 1320, 107.9.
As it turns out, there really is a deep flaw with not only Google, but all AI systems. The flaw is buried so deep in the very architecture of AI that it simply cannot be fixed. And this is where AI becomes a grave danger to us all. I'm Kim Commando for ExpressVPN. Secure your online data today by visiting expressvpn.com/Kim. At this very moment, technicians at Google are working 24/7 to manually remove absurd AI answers before they go viral and embarrass the company again. Argadal is the current owner of the St. Regis Hotel in Colorado. That same bar is the opening pitch for the Florida Marlins. That U.S. astronauts met cats on the moon. All AI, regardless of who owns it, is based on what's called large language model software. Here's the flaw. It's designed to tell you a great story. It's not capable of knowing what's true, what's fantasy. It's just the way that the software operates.
Drinking from my Rush Limbaugh mug.
That's the danger. Enter to win a new iPhone at winfromkim.com.
This was one that actually was sent to Kello. The Rush Limbaugh show sent this out to affiliates, and it's got some of his quotes and whatnot on it, saying thank you for being part of the Rush Limbaugh show.
That's why I never go online without ExpressVPN, a simple app for your computer or smartphone that encrypts all your network data so that your ISP cannot.
I lack Rush's eloquence.
Who you message, the sites you visit, the videos you've watched, and more. That's why I recommend using ExpressVPN to hide your online activity. You just download the app, tap one button, and you're protected. And ExpressVPN does all of this without slowing your connection.
Okay, couple of minutes here, and then I'll be back on the air.
Protect yourself today with the VPN I use and trust. Visit expressvpn.com/Kim. That's expressvpn.com/Kim to get 3 extra months free. expressvpn.com/Kim.
The Kim Commando Show, live Saturday mornings at 9. Kello News Talk 1320 107.9.
The Kello Hotline is brought to you by Tires, your Give You More tire and automotive store. Financing programs available. 2 Sioux Falls locations to serve you.
Bring charm from the outdoors into your home with Grenoble by Anderson picture and combination windows. Optimizing a beautiful view and lighten a bedroom, kitchen, or living room from ABC Seamless of Sioux Falls. Call 605-646-2667 today.
I'm John Hughes, a Republican running for District 13 House. Our property tax system is broken. An alarming number of people fear losing their homes because of escalating property taxes. Families already struggling with inflation can't afford this extra burden. South Dakotans need immediate...
The commercials that you will hear me doing
I will fight to fix
are paying to be on the air.
relief for District 13.
So they're not paying to be on the stream.
Vote on June 4th. I'm John Hughes, and I approve this message.
They're getting a benefit, though,
For District 13.
obviously. So I'm going to do a live ad here for my friends at Jim's National Transmission coming up. And then we'll get back to what's going on in the news.
Get peak performance in your home by finding a local Champion dealer at championhomecomfort.com. Ask about our special financing options with rates as low as 0% and our factory-backed extended parts and labor warranty. Always leading, never compromising. championhomecomfort.com.
Big transmission problem or minor repair takes a specialist to know, and that's why I recommend the specialist at Jim's National Transmission. They're downtown at 4th and Weber. When you're having transmission problems, it's always best to go to a specialist. Most auto repair places will just replace your transmission. That will cost you 50 to 70% more than if you went to a transmission specialist. Do yourself a favor. Save yourself time and money by taking your vehicle to the team at Jim's Transmission. They know all the ins and outs of automatic transmission diagnosis. Jim's Transmission is the transmission-only specialist, where transmissions are all they do. Find them downtown at 4th and Weber. Can also check out their website at jimsautotrans.com. You'll find coupons and specials and their phone number. That's at jimsautotrans.com. jimsautotrans.com. Jim's National Transmission, downtown at 4th and Weber.
Hello.com. With entertaining talk.
And news when it happens.
It's the website preferred by 9 out of 10 people who want to know what's going on. And while you're there, download the free Kello app for your phone.
Kello, News Talk 1320, 107.9.
.39, mostly cloudy, and 63 currently at Kello. Great to have you along. Welcome to the Craig Belfrage Show. Hey, we'll run down trending stories here for you in just a moment. Want to remind you that coming up a little bit later this morning, we'll have chances for you to win 2 tickets to see Sutton Foster. Sutton Foster will be bringing her Broadway classics to the Washington Pavilion. So be listening for your chance to win coming up within the next 45 minutes. We'll give you chances to win this morning and again tomorrow. And again, the concert is on June 1st.
What's trending now?
Add them on Facebook.
Let the tweeting begin. The hashtag does that. News and views from...
Well, a U.S. appeals court yesterday set a fast-track schedule then to consider the legal challenges of a new law requiring ByteDance to divest TikTok's U.S. assets. So the U.S. Court of Appeals in D.C. has ordered the case set for oral arguments in September. So all of the players here, TikTok, ByteDance, Justice Department, all want a quick schedule. We've talked about that at length. What do you think about banning TikTok? Also, Justice Samuel Alito told lawmakers yesterday he will not recuse himself from upcoming cases related to the 2020 election. There have been a lot of reports about flags that were connected to the Stop the Steal effort that were flown outside of his homes. And Alito said, no, he's not recusing himself. And he explained that he had nothing to do with the flags that were flown over his homes. He said that he and his wife each owned the home, and he said, I had nothing whatsoever to do with the flying of that flag. I was not even aware of the upside down flag until it was called to my attention. As soon as I saw it, I asked my wife to take it down, but for several days she refused, he said. And he said they own the home jointly, and he said she's got a legal right to use the property as she sees fit. So the flag, there's a lot of controversy. I just think that's an effort to try to create difficulties for Alito. That's what this is all about. It's the whole flying a flag, dispute with neighbors, what's going on between his wife and neighbors. It has nothing to do with his rulings on the court, but the left is just desperate to get Alito off of the Supreme Court. Also, the charges against Scotty Scheffler were dismissed yesterday. So this came about 2 weeks after he was arrested in Kentucky. He was arrested right before the second round of the PGA Championship. So Mike O'Connell is the Jefferson County attorney. So he filed a motion to have all of the charges dismissed, and he said the whole thing was a misunderstanding, he said. And he said, based on the totality of the evidence, my office cannot move forward in the prosecution of the charges filed against Mr. Scheffler. And he said, Mr. Scheffler's characterization that this was a big misunderstanding is corroborated by the evidence. And this goes on. And then it spoke well about Detective Brian Gillis. He said, the evidence we received supports the conclusion that the officer was concerned for public safety when he initiated contact with Mr. Scheffler. However, Mr. Scheffler's actions and the evidence surrounding their exchange and during this misunderstanding do not satisfy the elements of any criminal offenses. So they drop all of the charges against Scotty Scheffler. The Donald Trump trial continues, of course, and the jury now deliberating. Today will be the second day that they're deliberating. So court will resume at 9:30 this morning. That's 9:30 Eastern time. And there were a number of questions that I think they had 4 different questions for the Judge Juan Merchan, who was hearing that case. So that will continue throughout the day. Donald Trump's company has sold one of its most prized private jets, and they sold it to a Republican mega donor. And so the jet is a 1997 Cessna. It's valued at about 10 million. But the exact terms of this deal are under wraps. But Donald Trump, as you know, facing all of these legal judgments, has been pressed for money. So he has offloaded one of his, apparently this is one of Donald Trump's favorite jets. Also, the weather that we have seen in Texas, it's just been incredible over the course of the last few weeks in particular, but number of power outages throughout Texas, leaving 800,000 people in the dark. And those storms severe enough and the power outages widespread enough that you've got other states like Kentucky that are also affected by these power outages that have been striking that area. Israeli tanks reached the center of Rafah for the first time this week, according to witnesses. This is a story from the Times of Israel that's trending. And so tanks are spotted in central Rafah. And troops have continued to operate there. There was no immediate comment from the Israeli Defense Forces on some of these witness accounts. The military said it will issue a statement regarding the Rafah operation. Donald Trump says, this is a story from the Washington Post, and Trump saying he'll deport anti-Israeli student protesters if he gets elected. So he will deport these anti-Israel, pro-Palestinian student protesters, according to the Washington Post. Trump told a crowd that this was a May 14th donor event. And Trump said that this crowd apparently included like 98% of my Jewish friends, Trump said. And he said, if you get me reelected, we're going to set that movement back 25 or 30 years. It has to be stopped now. One thing I do is any student that protests, I throw them out of the animal feces into South Korea. Over 250 inflated balloons with plastic bags tied to them had been detected, and this is by yesterday. So some of these inflatables landed on the ground. Others were still airborne, but they have dropped, animal feces and garbage, and that's coming from North Korea, sending them into South Korea. Also, Major League Baseball's record books are going to get a change. It's a big decision that statistics from the Negro League are now going to become an official part of Major League Baseball's historical records. So they announced this yesterday. And this comes after they had announced that they would elevate the Negro Leagues to Major League status. And now they're saying that Major League Baseball's record books are going to reflect those changes. And for instance, one of the changes, what it will mean is that Hall of Fame catcher Josh Gibson will become Major League Baseball's single season record holder in a number of different categories. In fact, he will surpass Ty Cobb as the all-time career leader in batting average. He will also move ahead of Babe Ruth for slugging percentage. So he will hold single season records in batting average, slugging percentage, and a number of others. So he played his entire 14-year career in the Negro Leagues. And now his records will be part of Major League Baseball. Also trending this morning, a California judge denied almost all of Scott Peterson's DNA retesting requests yesterday. So the judge did agree to allow only one piece of evidence to go through a new round of DNA testing. It was a piece of duct tape that was found on his, you remember his wife, Lacey Peterson, who was killed. It was a piece of duct tape found on her pants at the time of her autopsy. But he wanted a number of DNA tests, and the judge denied all but one. Also, the National Transportation Safety Board said yesterday it's investigating a natural gas explosion that occurred in Youngstown, Ohio, and wound up being deadly. I think one person was killed, 7 other people were injured, including one critically, authorities said. And it all happened, during this explosion, but at this point there's no word on what it is that caused the actual explosion. Police are ramping up security on Long Island after ISIS threatened to disrupt the upcoming Cricket World Cup match between India and Pakistan. Well, this will be taking place in the United States. And so officials said there had been no specific threat of a terror attack at Eisenhower Stadium during the match is scheduled for June 9th. But police say they're taking no chances. This will be the tightest security that Nassau County has ever seen. Every single asset in the police department is involved, including our intelligence. And this is a multi-agency operation. People responding to this and saying everything is credible. So there's a post from ISIS that shows a hooded individual with a rifle strapped to their back with the message saying, "You wait for the matches and we wait for you." So officials are saying there'll be more than 100 police officers that are assigned to other area neighborhoods. The venue itself will be equipped with metal detectors. So again, this is the World Cup match between India and Pakistan that will be taking place in the United States. And authorities are taking those threats very, very seriously. NASA has released evidence that Venus appears to be more volcanically active than was thought previously. So scientists have been studying decades-old radar images, and they've spotted evidence of eruptions at 2 additional sites on Venus. So these images that were obtained come from NASA's Magellan spacecraft and were captured between 1990 to 1992, so years old. And according to these images, it indicates large lava flows at 2 locations. Magellan mapped about 98% of the surface of Venus. Also, the president making an unexpected stop at his daughter-in-law's house over the weekend. And this is comes ahead of her testimony at her son's gun trial. So Hunter Biden's federal trial is set to begin on June 3rd. And Hallie Biden, who's the widow of Beau Biden, is expected to be among those called to testify. And so the president paid her a visit then on Sunday evening. White House spokesman Andrew Bates said that the president didn't talk about the upcoming trial during his visit. And he said the reason the president visited her is because of the approaching 9th anniversary of Bo's passing. But that story is trending this morning. Another story trending involving the president. Actually, we talked about it yesterday. Some of these stories, by the time they're trending, they're kind of old news. We talked about it yesterday about the president's campaign showing up outside of the Manhattan courtroom where Donald Trump is facing charges, and Robert De Niro and a pair of former police officers were there. And even the legacy media, this is a report from the Associated Press saying, it was the president's campaign made the decision to show up outside of Donald Trump's New York City courtroom, which was I would just say, I don't see how the president benefits from that move. And then finally, the Supreme Court Tuesday declined Michael Avenatti's request to reconsider his conviction for plotting to extort Nike. Avenatti is saying it ought to be thrown out, and the Supreme Court took a pass on that and said, "Now we'll allow that to stand." And that's the story is trending this morning in Belf's News Gallery. This hour of the Greg Belfrage Show brought to you by the Window Shop of Mitchell, offering custom windows starting at $99 a month. 657, mostly cloudy, 63. And you're listening to the Greg Belfrage Show on Kello.
You learn to listen and listen.
Well, thank you, my friend, for being here this morning. I very much appreciate it. We'll wrap up. The show's going to continue live. You want to hear more, of course, you can stream the show live from KELO.com. And then we also post it after the conclusion of the program this morning. We post podcasts of the entire show also, so you can listen at your convenience. We do it in bite-sized portions, makes it easier for you to short trips, or you got a short period of time to be able to listen. Regardless, I really appreciate you being here. Thank you so much, my friend. Take care. So long until tomorrow, and may God bless.